Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 27th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see this next system rolling our way here across Pacific Northwest. Some areas are trending drier, some wetter here with this system as it heads our way. You can see BC, Washington, Oregon here. The high and mid-level clouds are going to start spreading over the region here today and this afternoon. I'll get the camera out just in case we get some lenticular formation with anything coming across the Cascades here today. Taking a look here, this is my home station, the Davis Vantage Pro 2. I highly recommend the station here. I've got it mounted on a 32-foot telescoping pole. It actually goes up to 40 feet, but it starts to kind of look a little bit ridiculous when you go up that high. I've got the 3-cup anemometer, and I compare it with the ultrasonic there on the top. And so you can put the anemometer in a different location versus the thermometer and the rain gauge, for example. It's very customizable. The station will last you a long time. I highly recommend that station. Now, taking a look at Spokane, you can see cooler, wet, breezy midweek here. Some gusty winds are coming and a bit of a cool down here for eastern Washington with record temperatures potential for some areas as we go through the day today. Look at Seattle yesterday, busted that all-time record high of 78. We got hit 82 yesterday. Another warm day coming up, but nowhere near that record set back in 1967. And our chances for some good precipitation are diminishing here for Seattle. Sorry about that. And a little bit further north, you go through the Puget Sound, the chances get a little bit lower as this system looks like it's moving through Oregon a bit more than Washington here coming up. So we will look at that here in a moment, but you can see here Portland, Oregon, 90 yesterday, another warm day today as we continue on towards early October. Taking a look at the visible satellite imagery here, you can see the cloud deck that's moved all the way into the valleys of the Oregon coast and the Washington coast. You can see it encroaching up into the valleys here of the Olympic Mountains. You can see it going through southwest Washington, I-5 corridor as well. You can see all the forest fire smoke kind of drifting off to the east into the Puget Sound lowlands, and you can see the Cedar Creek fire drifting off to the east, making it into the southern Willamette Valley as well. So this is going to turn a little bit more onshore here as we go through the next day or so, shunting this off into eastern Washington. So it'll give a break for western portions, but it's going to kick some smoke off east a bit more here in the next day or so. Now here we go, looking at 700 millibars, 10,000 feet. There's this cold air behind this system here. It's going to be rolling our way here, and you can kind of see that rolling in as we go through Wednesday afternoon. And we might warm back up again here this next weekend as well, as model's been trending a little further offshore with this next troughing, going to allow a ridge to amplify across the area here. We'll take a look at that here in the temperatures shortly. Now looking here, this is the ensemble mean here. This is an average of all 50 run turns. We put this into motion here tomorrow. You can see some precipitation for Seattle, but 1/10 of an inch. It's something at least, but the further you go north, you can see the precipitation amounts are lighter. The further south you go, mainly the Oregon coast, looks like it's going to be the winner for this system. Some of the west slopes of the Cascades, this may clip the Cedar Creek fire here, so I'm all about that. Let's help put out some of these forest fires across the region. Maybe some meaningful rainfall there for the Bolt Creek fire, but we'll see how that goes. You can see it doesn't look too bad for northeast Oregon, Spokane, Idaho Panhandle, western Montana as well. Some good precipitation amounts moving through there. So we are going to cool down with this system. Just not quite as much precipitation as I was hoping for. It doesn't look like anyway. The models have been trending downward, at least for the Seattle area northward, and trending upwards here across portions of Oregon. Now taking a look here, 8 meters above the ground, looks like the HRRR is picking up that Bolt Creek fire again. You see the Cedar Creek fire going there too, but you can see this smoke starting to be shunted off to the east here as we go through this evening and tonight versus what we have this morning with some pretty good smoke values here through western Washington and Willamette Valley. Now taking a look here, total cloud cover. I just wanted to kind of show you guys this. Here comes this next system, kind of nice looking here on the simulated. It's basically a simulated satellite imagery here, but you can see some of these high and mid-level clouds moving across the Cascades this afternoon. Then you can see the system approaching mainly towards the Oregon coast here as we go through the day Wednesday. Now taking a look here, European on the left, GFS on the right, yesterday afternoon's runs here. You can see the trough plainly on both models moving towards the coastline here. They're kind of trending down towards the mouth of the Columbia River or down into Oregon here. System moves through, and you can see this trough digging offshore on both models, building a ridge across the area a bit here. It's going to allow us to warm up a bit as we go on in through next weekend for some areas anyway. This trough tries to get close, but it starts to break down as it approaches the west coast of North America. And you see the GFS kind of turns this into a cutoff low here off the coast of California versus a different solution here on the European, where it just kind of brings another trough down across the Gulf of Alaska over the Pacific Ocean here. So we start to get that typical model disagreement as we get out there in 150 hours plus. Now, taking a look here, Seattle, Tacoma, you can see that next weekend we have the potential for a nice warm weekend coming up here again. And, you know, we're getting into early October here, so I just recommend enjoying this while it lasts, because you guys know how this goes. We're going to be wishing for these weekends here as we start to get into October and November eventually. But you can see the cool down here after today coming up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here as we move that system through here, then potentially build that ridge back up there and through the extended, of course, low confidence as per usual. Spokane, very warm today, cooling down a bit as this trough goes through Thursday, Friday, and then a bit of a bounce back as we go through the weekend. But you notice the temperature is not even as warm as Seattle now for eastern Washington in the extended, but we'll continue to watch that. Portland, you can see that warm up potential for next weekend also. Cool days on Wednesday and Thursday as the trough moves through. Crater Lake, Klamath Falls, you can see the bit of a cool down coming up here, then a bounce back next weekend as well. Rain chances have increased a little bit for Oregon here too over the next Wednesday into Thursday. Now, taking a look here at Ian, you guys are probably hearing all about this on the news. This is now a major hurricane. It just crossed over Cuba here. There is going to be some pretty dire impacts here on the west coast of Florida. This system does not look like it's moving very fast, and that spells bad news for some of these areas. Very susceptible to storm surge, which comes with the low pressure and strong winds as they push up against the coastline here. Very powerful winds are expected as well as some very heavy rainfall amounts with a slow-moving system. There's also a tornado watch out for portions of the Florida Keys here in southern Florida. So heads up if you're down there in that region. You got a lot of turning in the atmosphere here in some of these bands out here. These highly sheared, embedded thunderstorms here can produce tornadoes. It's pretty typical with any hurricane. Now you can see here, look at the development of the storm as it comes off of Cuba. The eye really starts to clear out here. If you were in the middle of that, you would see glorious sunshine above you. This is a very powerful hurricane right now. It is a major hurricane. A nice representation here on the visible satellite imagery. Now, taking a look here, the European on the left, GFS on the right, you can kind of see how the models have converged on this area, western Florida, hitting just south of Tampa Bay, it looks like. So that is where we're at now. Pretty good agreement, at least through the short term there. Then we have some disagreement on movement and speed of the system here as we go through the extended. But the main impacts are definitely going to be here along the western Florida coast, and then these are going to extend northward up potentially to southeast USA portions there. Now, taking a look here at total precipitation, watch this hurricane, man, as it moves up towards Tampa Bay here. Look at some of these values, over 20 inches, you know, well over a foot for many areas here. This is not a quick moving system. It's the problem with that. You bring some real flooding potential with this storm. And you can see some of these heavier amounts up towards Georgia and whatnot as we go on in a couple days further. Taking out this is the wind gust swath. So you can see some readings of potential 100+ mile per hour winds here along the west coast of Florida as we go on in through Wednesday on into Thursday morning here. Very impressive system. Now back to the Pacific Northwest. Here's Quilly. You can see we've got the downtrend going on here. Just a couple tenths of an inch, maybe. The mean is less than 2/10. The control saying about 1/10 of an inch. So not a very wet system coming through here. A little bit less than I was hoping for. Seattle, Tacoma, some of these ensemble runs are even dry. You can see maybe one has a pretty good precipitation amount there, but generally just a couple tenths maybe expected there. The mean is below a couple tenths. The control shows about 3/10 of an inch there. So I would be happy with 3/10 of an inch, but that seems to be kind of an outlier at this point. Portland International, you can see about 2/10 control in the mean say that, but you can see a few dry runs in there. But there's a couple of these ensembles that do show higher amounts. So cross your fingers if we can get some better precipitation amounts down through the Willamette Valley there. Rogue Valley, you'll notice, if you remember yesterday, we hardly had any signal at all for precipitation down in Medford. It did increase a bit, but still not that much, not expected to be a big precipitation maker down there. This is Salem, though. Oh, look at this. I mean, you're trending. This is the mean is up towards 3/10 of an inch now. You can see some of these values are higher, and very few dry members in here as of now. So hopefully Salem can get some meaningful precipitation out of this also. This is for Spokane. The further you go east towards the Idaho Panhandle, the better chance for precipitation. Look at the control with over 4/10. The mean is up over 3/10 of an inch as well. So good news out there for portions of eastern Washington, although the further you go west towards the Columbia Basin is definitely going to be less as you're a bit rain shadowed there. So yeah, here comes our next system here, and we're going to cool down for a couple days and potentially bounce back in the wake of this system here as we build a ridge, depending on just how this trough digs out across the Pacific Ocean here for the next storm, and just how much this ridge amplifies across the area. We might have another warm weekend coming up here, folks. So enjoy that, because you guys know how this goes as we get into October and November. We're going to be back into these systems rolling through every day or every 3 days. You know how it goes. So anyway, hope you guys are enjoying these forecasts here. We're going to do this again tomorrow. We'll watch this as it's coming in tomorrow morning. We'll try to pick up just how much precipitation we're going to get. We'll check out that ridge in the wake, and then we'll see if we have any systems coming down the pipe in the extended forecast here. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.